Well, today, I wanted to go down the rabbit hole of perception, of selective bias, as science would call it. I was just listening to a podcast with the one and only Peter Crone. Now, Peter Crone, as people call him, is the mind architect. And what he does is pretty much, in his words, he doesn't solve problems. Instead, what he does is dissolve them by making you aware that they never existed in the first place besides in your mind, in a story or construct that you created through childhood, through your own stories, beliefs, or narratives throughout your life that are confining you. It's like you're in this box and your box is this perception, this belief that you have about yourself. Your ego, it's attached to your identity. And so you can never quite break out of that box because you believe it is you. People say, I am depressed. Well, now you've put yourself in a box named depression. You see, the most powerful words in the human language is I am. Because whatever you put after those words will determine how you see the world, how you act, and how you'll find evidence in the world for that belief. And so there's a quote that he brings up that is one of his favorites as well as one of my favorites in recent times. And it pretty much goes, "The journey of true discovery lies not in finding new lands, but in looking through new eyes. You see, there are as many worlds as there are minds." What I mean by that is we all see life so differently. Not one person and another sees the world through the same lens. Why? Because we see the world through the lens of our own beliefs. And our beliefs are a curation of everything that's happened in our lives. In other words, you are incredibly unique. And how you see the world is incredibly unique to you. And this can work against us or for us, depending on the beliefs that we have about ourselves, the stories and identity that we attach ourselves to. And so in neuroscience, they have a term called cognitive bias or selective bias. And as Dr. John Demartini says, whatever we hold highest in our values, whatever we think about the most, whatever we hold highest in importance, whatever we value the most, that's the filter through which we see the world. And so I think this is incredibly important to try and understand. And not even to understand at first, but to improve one's awareness of the happenings of the world and how our mind is like a projector. You see, we're the director of our own movie, and the movie is life and how we see the world. No two people see the world the same way. And so what we're projecting is our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs onto the world. You can think about two people walking side by side and it starts to rain. All right, same situation, the same happening, the same what is, meaning it's raining, it starts to rain. Two people experience the same event, yet one person is pissed off, man. He or she don't like the rain. And so they go and they kind of get angry and resentful and they say, oh man, I just hate when it rains. And they focus on, man, I'm getting so wet. I'm getting drenched right here and I'm not happy. So they put a frown on their face and all of that. The other person though starts to smile and they say, man, I really enjoy the rain. I really enjoy how whenever it rains, that is exactly how the place around me stays so green and vibrant. And if you've ever thought about that, if we didn't have any rain, we wouldn't have any green. We wouldn't have the green grass and the beautiful trees and flowers that we do. And so it's all a matter of perception. Two people experience the same event with complete different perceptions and descriptions of that event that in turn created their attitude. And so again, Viktor Frankl says in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, that the last of the human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given situation, in any given circumstance. And that's a powerful one to reflect upon. And so in neuroscience, cognitive bias, as I was getting at before, we choose how we see the world. We choose what we focus on, because there is so much happening in the world. And the human mind can only take in a very, very small amount of everything that actually goes on. It's like if you were in a dark room, all right, and you had a flashlight, that beam of light represents the little percentage of the room that you can see and navigate. And that's what you're focusing on. That's the mind focusing on a selective amount of the world. Now, if you turn the lights on, you'd be able to see everything. But our minds don't work like that. It would be overwhelmed. It would be way too much for the brain to take in if we could actually see all that there is. And another example of this is, have you ever bought a new car, or someone came who had a certain car, a family member or something, and then for whatever reason, you started seeing more of those cars on the road? Or a sibling or someone wants to get a dog, and you start putting a lot of value on dogs, and you say, oh man, it would be so cool to have a dog. What will you notice? You will start noticing all the people who have dogs, and you'll be like, where the fuck did all these dogs come from? They've been there the whole time. Your mind just didn't choose to focus on them. So why is this important? Why is this important to understand? And why is it important to consciously work on the skill of awareness? You see, there are many ways to see different situations. For example, the elephant in the room, COVID-19, baby. COVID-19 is a happening. It is what is right now. It's happening. No matter what you think, believe in, or want to have happen, COVID-19 is a reality that's happening right now. So it is what is. Now, how we see it and how we go about thinking about COVID and the situation is completely dependent on how we think and our beliefs that we already have. If you have the belief that you are a victim of life, that you aren't good enough in some fundamental way, that the world is conspiring against you, well then you've now created the perfect evidence of COVID being that of an aggressor, or that of something proving your beliefs that, oh man, you see, I am a victim. I am unfortunate. See, life is against me. And so you've now, because of your beliefs that you already have, you see COVID-19 as evidence for why that belief is true. And we will always find evidence for that which we hold in our minds. Now, that's the situation. Another person can see COVID and say, hey, wow, what an opportunity. What a lesson. What is COVID-19 showing me about myself? Man, I got a lot of fear. For example, me personally, when COVID first hit, I was like, man, there was some initial fear. There was some initial oh man, my brain started acting up. Then I realized, man, what is COVID-19 revealing about myself? What is COVID-19 exposing about myself that I haven't yet dealt with? You see, here's the thing. There's many ways about thinking about a circumstance. And ultimately, it is an act of personal responsibility to be aware of how we respond. Because how we respond to any given circumstance is either beneficial, is freeing, or is unbeneficial, detrimental, or confining. And so I thought about this a lot with COVID and how, how the same thing is happening to all of us in the world. Yet so many people are going about it so uniquely. The same event is happening, but people's responses to that event are completely different. So what does that show? That shows that we have the ability to choose our attitude, and we have a responsibility to choose our attitude. And it's possible to see COVID as really a blessing and a lesson, or it's very possible to see COVID as evidence for you being a victim. Now, I've been thinking about perception a lot because I think it's one of the most important things one could ponder about, simply because it shows the power of one's beliefs and thoughts. It shows the power of what one holds high in their values, in their mind. Because we filter the world through those thoughts and feelings. So awareness is key at the start. Awareness really is the first stepping stone to taking responsibility of your life. Because if you are a victim to your story, and you're a victim to your beliefs, and you're a victim to the narratives that your family, other people, society have put on you, you're going to see the world forever through those belief systems until you become aware of them and you realize that you've been your own jailer this whole time. You aren't a victim. You've set yourself up for the events in your life that you find dissatisfying.